Welcome to another episode of True Crime Case Files. In this episode, we delve into a shocking series of murders that rocked the quiet city of Scottsdale, Arizona in January of 2015. Join us as we uncover the chilling details behind the murders and explore the dark side of social media. The first victim in this horrific case was Jana Lafferty, a young woman who had a bright future ahead of her. Jana was born in Mission Viejo, California, the only child of David and Lisa Lafferty, who owned a successful landscaping business. Jana grew up in a loving and supportive family and was described by her friends and relatives as a cheerful, kind, and smart person. Jana had a passion for fashion since she was a little girl. She loved to experiment with different outfits, accessories, and makeup, and often posted photos of her looks on her Instagram account, Jana Love Fashion. She had amassed over 100,000 followers on the platform and was considered one of the rising stars in the fashion blogging scene. She had collaborated with several brands, such as Forever 21, H&M, and Sephora. She had also started her own YouTube channel, where she shared tips, tutorials, and reviews on fashion and beauty products. Jana was a sophomore at Arizona State University, where she was majoring in marketing. She had moved to Scottsdale, Arizona in August of 2013 and lived in an off-campus apartment with two of her best friends, Mia and Carly. She enjoyed her college life and was active in several clubs and organizations, such as the Fashion Society, the Marketing Association, and the Delta Gamma sorority. She had a 3.8 GPA and had plans to pursue a career in the fashion industry after graduation. She had also applied for an internship at Vogue and was waiting for a response. Jana had everything going for her until her life was cut short by a brutal killer on January 12, 2015. The dark side of social media reared its ugly head as jealous individuals and online trolls lurked in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Jana's seemingly perfect life had become a double-edged sword, attracting both adoration and malice. Jana Lafferty's murder was a shocking and gruesome crime that stunned the Scottsdale community. Her body was found on January 12, 2015, in the dressing room of Neiman Marcus, an upscale clothing boutique located at the Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall. She had been shot twice in the chest with a 9mm handgun. On her forehead, the killer had written HABLBDTA in red lipstick, a cryptic and sinister message that would haunt the investigation. The person who discovered Jana's body was one of her closest friends, Carly Ramos. Carly, a 20-year-old ASU student and aspiring journalist, had planned to meet Jana at the mall for a shopping spree. They had exchanged text messages earlier that day, and Jana had told Carly that she was already at the boutique, trying on some clothes. Carly arrived at the mall around 2:30 p.m. and headed straight to Neiman Marcus. She expected to find Jana in the dressing room, but instead she found a horrific scene. Carly recalled the moment she opened the dressing room door and saw Jana's lifeless body. She said she felt a surge of shock, disbelief, and horror. She screamed and ran out of the room, looking for help. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, barely able to speak through her tears and panic. She told the operator that her friend had been shot and gave the location of the boutique. She stayed on the line until the police arrived, hoping that it was all a terrible mistake. But it was no mistake. Jana Lafferty was dead, and the killer was still at large. As soon as the police received the 911 call from Carly Ramos, they rushed to the scene of the crime. The call came in at 2:37 p.m., and by 2:45 p.m., the first officers arrived at the Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall, where the upscale clothing boutique Neiman Marcus was located. They quickly secured the area and entered the boutique, where they were met by a distraught Carly, who pointed them to the dressing room where Jana's body was found. The lead investigator of the case was Detective Mark Ambergris, a veteran of the Scottsdale Police Department. He had been assigned to the homicide unit for over a decade and had seen his fair share of gruesome crimes. But nothing prepared him for the sight that awaited him in the dressing room. Jana Lafferty, a beautiful young woman with a bright future, was lying on the floor, covered in blood. She had been shot twice in the chest and had a strange message written on her forehead in red lipstick, HABLBDTA. Detective Ambergris wondered what it meant and who had done this to her. He and his team began to collect and document the evidence at the crime scene. They took photos, measurements, and samples of the blood, the lipstick, and the bullet casings. They also searched for fingerprints, hairs, fibers, and any other traces that might belong to the killer. They found the murder weapon, a 9mm handgun, on a nearby shelf and checked its serial number. They also interviewed the staff and the customers of the boutique, hoping to find any witnesses or clues. They learned that Jana had arrived at the boutique around 2 p.m. and had been trying on some clothes in the dressing room. No one had seen anyone else enter or leave the dressing room, or heard any gunshots. The killer had been stealthy and quick, and had left no obvious signs of his or her presence. Detective Ambergris knew he had a challenging case on his hands. He had to find out who had killed Jana Lafferty, and why. He had to decipher the meaning of the BLBDTA message, and see if it was related to any other crimes. He had to catch the killer before he or she struck again. He had to bring justice to Jana and her family. He had a lot of work to do. One of the first people the police wanted to talk to was Brian Hartley, the boyfriend of Jana Lafferty. Brian, a 21-year-old ASU student and lacrosse player, had been dating Jana for over a year. He was also an aspiring gaming influencer who ran a YouTube channel called Mouth Breathers Must Die, where he posted videos of himself playing and reviewing various video games. He had a loyal fan base of over 20,000 subscribers, but he was nowhere near as popular as Jana, who had over 200,000 followers on Instagram. The police suspected that Brian might have had a motive to kill Jana out of jealousy or resentment. They wondered if he felt threatened by her success or if he had any issues with her lifestyle or career choices. They also wondered if he had any involvement in the BLBTA message, which could stand for Brian loves but doesn't trust anyone, or something similar. They brought Brian in for questioning and confronted him with their suspicions. Brian was visibly shaken and emotional as he denied any knowledge or participation in Jana's murder. He said he loved Jana more than anything and that he was proud of her achievements. He said he had nothing to do with the BLBDTA message and that he had no idea what it meant or who wrote it. He said he had an alibi for the time of the murder, as he was at his dorm room playing Call of Duty with his roommate. He said he could prove it, as he had recorded a live stream of his gameplay, which was still available on his YouTube channel. The police checked Brian's alibi and found that it was true. They also checked his phone records, social media accounts, and computer history, and found no evidence of any connection to the murder or the message. They realized that Brian was telling the truth and that he was not the killer. They had to look elsewhere for the culprit. The Scottsdale killer was not done yet. On January 15, 2015, 3 days after Jana Lafferty's murder, another body was found in a suburban home in Mesa, Arizona. The victim was Diana Christian Blunt, a 23-year-old makeup artist from Chicago who was visiting her retired parents. Diana was well known on YouTube for her makeup tutorials, where she showcased her skills and creativity. She had over 130,000 subscribers on her channel and had collaborated with several beauty brands, such as MAC, Urban Decay, and NARS. Diana's body was discovered by her parents, who had retired to Arizona and lived in a spacious house in a gated community. They had invited Diana to stay with them for a few days, as they wanted to spend some quality time with their daughter. They had no idea that their daughter was in danger, or that a killer was stalking her. They found Diana in the guest bedroom, where she had been staying. She had been shot in the head and had the same BLBDTA message written on her forehead in lipstick. Her MacBook was open on the bed, showing her latest vlog, where she had mentioned that she was in Arizona and was planning to meet some of her fellow beauty influencers. The police were notified, and they arrived at the scene shortly after. The police recognized the similarities between Diana's murder and Jana's murder. They realized that they were dealing with a serial killer who was targeting young women who were popular on social media. They wondered what the killer's motive was and how he or she was choosing the victims. They also wondered what the BLBDTA message meant and if it was a clue or a taunt. They had to find the killer before he or she killed again. They had to stop the madness. The Scottsdale social media killer showed no signs of stopping. On January 20th, 2015, another young woman was found dead in a gruesome manner. The victim was Piper Sabo, a 16-year-old high school student who loved music and singing. Piper was a talented vocalist who had gained fame on YouTube with her cover of Rihanna's S&M, which had over 1 million views. She had also auditioned for the popular TV show, American Idol, and had received positive feedback from the judges. Piper's body was discovered in the girls' bathroom of Desert Ridge High School, where she was a junior. She had been shot in the mouth and had the BLBDTA message written on her forehead in lipstick. Her phone was lying next to her, showing her YouTube channel, where she had posted her latest video, a cover of Taylor Swift's Blank Space. The police were alerted, and they arrived at the scene shortly after. The police recognized the pattern of the serial killer who was targeting young women who were successful on social media. They wondered what the killer's motive was and how he or she was selecting the victims. They also wondered what the BLBDT message meant and if it was a clue or a taunt. They had to find the killer before he or she killed again. They had to stop the madness. The Scottsdale police were at a loss to find the serial killer who was murdering young women who had a large following on social media. They had no leads, no suspects, and no motive. The only clue they had was the #BLBTA message that the killer wrote on each victim's forehead in lipstick, but they did not know what it meant or who was behind it. That changed on January 21st, 2015, when an anonymous tip led them to a shocking discovery. The tipster claimed to have found a cache of videos on the computer of Marlena Clay, a 34-year-old guidance counselor who worked at Desert Ridge High School, the same school where the third victim, Piper Sabo, was a student. The tipster said that Marlena ranted about the victims, about how they deserved to die. The tipster also said that Marlena had used the hashtag BLBDTA on all her social media posts about the victims, and that it stood for Bitch looks better dead than alive. Marlena had been following the victims online and had been stalking them offline. She had planned and executed each murder and had filmed herself doing so. She had also written the BLBDTA message on their foreheads as a way of expressing her contempt and satisfaction. The police wasted no time in tracking down Marlena Clay. They obtained a warrant to search her home in Mesa, Arizona, and raided it early in the morning. They found Marlena sleeping in her bedroom and arrested her. They also seized her Dell Inspiron laptop, which contained the videos that the tipster had mentioned. The videos were disturbing and revealing, as they showed Marlena's twisted obsession with the victims and her envy and hatred of their fame and success. She had planned and executed each murder and had filmed herself doing so. She had also written the BLBDTA message on their foreheads as a way of expressing her contempt and satisfaction. The police had finally caught the Scottsdale killer and solved the mystery of the BLBDTA message. They had also prevented Marlena from killing her fourth victim, who was revealed to be Selena Gomez, a famous singer and actress, who Marlena had recently posted a DM to on Instagram with the hashtag BLBDTA. Marlena had planned to kill her during her concert in Phoenix on January 22, 2015. The police alerted Selena's security team and ensured her safety. The news of Marlena's arrest sent shockwaves through the community. Marlena's reaction to her own arrest was one of disbelief and astonishment. She claimed that she was innocent and that she was being framed. She said that she was a fan of the victims and that she had nothing to do with their deaths. She said that the videos were fake and that the #BLBDTA message was a coincidence. She said that she was a good person and that she loved her job as a guidance counselor. She said that she was being persecuted for being a woman and that the police were sexist and corrupt. She said that she would fight for her freedom and that she would prove her innocence. The families of Jana, Diana, and Piper, on the other hand, felt a mix of relief and grief. They could finally find solace in the fact that justice was being served. They said that they hoped that Marlena would face the consequences of her actions and that she would never hurt anyone again. They said that they hoped that this case would raise awareness of the dangers of social media and that people would be more careful and respectful online. They said that they hoped that this case would end the madness. The trial of Marlena Clay was watched and talked in the area. The media and the public were fascinated by the case of the serial killer who had murdered 3 young women who were popular on social media. The trial was held at the Maricopa County Superior Court in Phoenix, Arizona, and lasted for 3 weeks. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Aaron Podolsky, presented a strong case against Marlena. They showed the jury the videos that Marlena had made, where she confessed to the murders and expressed her hatred and envy of the victims. They also showed the forensic evidence that linked Marlena to the crime scenes, such as the gun, the lipstick, and the DNA. They argued that Marlena was a delusional and dangerous person who had killed the victims out of jealousy and spite. They asked the jury to find Marlena guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and to sentence her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The defense attorney, Mike Reyes, tried his best to defend Marlena. He challenged the validity and reliability of the evidence and suggested that it could have been planted or tampered with. He also questioned the credibility and motives of the anonymous tipster who had led the police to Marlena's computer. He claimed that Marlena was a victim of a conspiracy and that she was being framed by someone who wanted to ruin her reputation and career. He argued that Marlena was a good person who had dedicated her life to helping others as a guidance counselor. He asked the jury to consider Marlena's mental state and to show her mercy and compassion. The victim's family attended the trial every day, hoping for justice and closure. They had to endure the painful and gruesome details of the murders and the insults and lies of the defense. They also had to face Marlena, who showed no remorse or regret for her actions. They felt a mix of anger, sadness, and fear as they waited for the verdict. Marlena's family and friends, too, were shocked, confused, and saddened by her actions and fate. They also felt betrayed, angry, and guilty for not noticing any signs of her mental instability or murderous intentions. They wondered how Marlena, who seemed to be a good person and a helpful guidance counselor, could have committed such horrific crimes. They also questioned their own relationship with Marlena and whether they could have done anything to prevent her from becoming a serial killer. They also faced public scrutiny and backlash for being associated with Marlena and had to deal negative attention from the media and the legal system. In the end, the jury delivered a verdict of guilty. They agreed with the prosecution that Marlena was the Scottsdale killer and that she had acted with premeditation and malice. They rejected the defense's arguments and found no reasonable doubt in the evidence. They convicted Marlena of 3 counts of first-degree murder and recommended that she be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a sense of relief and closure to the victims' families, but it did not erase the scars of the tragedy. They thanked the police and the prosecution for their hard work and dedication. They also thanked the public for their support and sympathy. They said that they would always remember their loved ones and that they would always honor their legacy. The trial of Marlena Clay was over, but the impact of her crimes lingered on. The families of Jana Lafferty, Diana Christian Blunt, and Piper Sabo had to cope with the loss of their loved ones, who had been brutally murdered by Marlena. They found comfort and support in each other and in the community. They also created memorial pages and foundations in honor of their daughters to celebrate their lives and achievements and to raise awareness and funds for causes that they cared about. For example, Jana's family created the Jana Lafferty Fashion Scholarship to help aspiring fashion students pursue their dreams. Diana's family created the Diana Christian Blunt Makeup Foundation to provide free makeup products and tutorials to women in need. Piper's family created the Piper Sabo Music Fund to support young musicians and singers with scholarships and equipment. The Scottsdale Police Department also had to deal with the aftermath of the case. They received praise and recognition for their hard work and dedication in catching the serial killer and for preventing further deaths. They also received training and counseling to help them cope with the trauma and stress of the investigation. They continued to serve and protect the community and to prevent and solve other crimes. As for Marlena Clay, she was sent to the Perryville State Prison, a women's prison in Goodyear, Arizona. She was placed in a maximum security unit where she had limited contact with other inmates and staff. She spent most of her time in her cell, reading books and writing letters. She also received occasional visits from her family and friends, who still loved and supported her, despite her actions. She also received hate mail and death threats from strangers, who despised and condemned her. She claimed that she was innocent and that she would appeal her conviction. She said that she was a victim of a conspiracy and that she had been framed by someone who wanted to ruin her life. She said that she was a good person and that she had never hurt anyone. She said that she hoped that one day the truth would come out and that she would be free. The case of the influencer murders serves as a chilling reminder of the dark side of social media fame and the lengths some individuals are willing to go to achieve it. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we urge our listeners to remain vigilant and mindful of the potential dangers lurking in the virtual world. Stay safe, and until next time, this is True Crime Case Files, signing off.
Hey, true crime case solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, true crime case solvers.